Today, let's talk about our first club from Czechia, or the Czech Republic. This is Slavia Prague, or Slavia Prague, as they're known internationally. They have an iconic kit you can recognize pretty much instantaneously using this vertical red and white bar halved across the kit. It's pretty much identical to Feyenoord Rotterdam of the Netherlands, but you can quickly discern the two by this huge inverted red star that is the badge for Slavia. Their nickname is Červeno-bílí, which means red and white, off of their home colors as you see above. This is the 2021-2022 home kit for them. It's one of my favorite ones that I've gotten in recent years. While I mentioned that inverted red star is their badge, they also have another one you'll see here. It's just a circular badge with their name, as well as that inverted star inside it. Slavia is one of Central Europe's older clubs, founded in 1892, just a year prior to their crosstown city rivals, Sparta. The two compete what's called the Prague Derby. It's one of the most important matches in Central European football and the biggest one within Czech and previously Czechoslovakian football. The two are the most successful clubs in the country, although in about the last decade, they've had some of that bitten back by a club outside of the city known as Victoria Pilzeně. The club compete in the top tier in the country, that league being known as the Czech First League, and that one's been around since 1993 when Czechoslovakia split apart into the two countries. Prior to that, the league was known as the Czechoslovak First League. Across those two different eras, the club has won the top flight league in the country 20 different times, as well as winning the Czech or Czechoslovak Cup 9 different times in their history. In 2021, the latest time they won the league, they won it as Invincibles, which means they did not lose a league match all season. Like many of the other Central European clubs we talked about in recent weeks, this club has won the Mitropa Cup, which was specifically for clubs from the Central European region to compete internationally. They won in 1938, so between the two world wars, and it was an important competition for clubs in this region, generally between clubs that used to be part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The club play in one of the country's most modern stadiums. It's called the Fortuna Arena at the current moment. Holds about 20,000 people. I watched them play a match there against AC Milan recently in the Europa League, and on TV, I could hear this stadium rocking. They have a great supporters group that really gets behind their club. Okay, let's talk about just 3 players from their past. I'm going to finish with the most important player in club history, but start with one that English and American viewers in modern times are going to recognize best, that being Tomáš Souček. He's a defensive and central midfielder that started with the club at the age of 10 through their academy before moving out to West Ham United in the Premier League, where he's been key in their recent success. The most important name to know from the club's history in the Czech First League era, so since 1993, would be Milan Škoda. He was a forward for the club and technically he's still with them, playing with their B team at the age of 38. With the first team during that Czech First League era, he's the club's record holder for most times appearing for the club, as well as their goal-scoring leader during that era. And the last player to mention is the club's greatest player of all time, as well as the greatest Czech player in the history of the game, this being Josef Bican, who's nicknamed Pepi. He played in Austria, as well as in Czechoslovakia. He's famous most for his time with Slavia. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time in the entire history of the sport. His time at Slavia, he played about 250 games, and he scored about 430 goals, which is almost 2 goals a game on average. And that is about as clinical as you get in goal-scoring records anywhere in the history of the sport. Let's talk about 3 players in their current squad so you know how this club builds up. The first name is an important one for the Czech national team as well, this being Tomáš Holeš. He's a player that started his career really as a center back, maybe as a right back a little bit as well. He generally gets deployed here in his age of his career as a defensive midfielder, there to be a support to the defensive line, as well as to be able to spring the ball forward into attack. Second player to mention is Václav Jurečka. He's an attacking midfielder for the club. He's their best creative and goal-scoring talent so far this season. Last I looked, he scored 10 goals for the club from the number 8 and number 10 position, sitting around and behind the forwards. And speaking of forwards, the last I'll talk about is Mojmír Chytil, rounding out the 3 players that I think have a good chance of being key contributors for the Czech national team this summer in the Euro. He's been a great striker for the club so far this season. So that's your rundown on Slavia Praha, or Slavia Prague, from Czechia.